guys, it's Shayla again from Freckle Finance, and today I'm going to do my labor and delivery story. If you're new to this channel, make sure you click that subscribe button below. I upload videos on personal finance, financial independence, and lifestyle videos related to my new baby, and we're also moving next week. As well as a little disclaimer, this is obviously going to be TMI. I'm going to be talking about blood and other stuff because this is a part of, birthing a baby. So to start off with, my last update was at my 37-week appointment where I believe I was 2 centimeters dilated. So I went to my 38-week appointment, was 4 centimeters dilated and 80% effaced, and I was so excited. I was like, there's such a good chance that I will go into labor naturally. So then my 38-week appointment happened right when I turned 38 weeks, and I was still 4 centimeters dilated and 80% effaced, and the baby was in the same position too, which is -2. So I was a little disappointed because that was my induction date, and obviously there wasn't too much hope at that point that I was going to be going to labor naturally. However, I did allow them to do a membrane sweep, which for me was not uncomfortable, and I was scheduled to be induced at 6 p.m. that night. So I did go out and we had like lunch, and I went for ice cream and stuff like that, enjoy my last day kind of thing, which is kind of strange. You always think that you're going to not know when you go into to labor, but when it's the day of, you kind of know it's your last day. So we arrive at the hospital at about 6 p.m. and there's like paperwork. They talk to us. I never got hooked up to a machine I didn't get hooked up to Pitocin until about 8 p.m. Now part of that is I was having contractions, which I wasn't feeling, and the nurse was like so impressed, but yeah, I was having contractions. They weren't super regular, I think maybe about every 10 minutes, and they wanted to give it time to see if it did speed up on its own. Had I not had cholestasis of pregnancy, I would have asked to have been discharged and wait to go into labor naturally, because it probably would have happened in the next few days. But because of the cholestasis and the fact that they already went to 38 weeks when generally 37 is recommended, I didn't want to push it. So, and honestly, you get so excited. You're like, I can have my baby now. So I got hooked up to Pitocin around 8 p.m. They come back every like half hour or so and like up the dosage. So around 11-ish they come in and they said that they were going to break my water when I get to 3 minutes apart, and I wouldn't even consider it to have been active labor at that point. Maybe some people would. The contractions that I was getting, were basically 3 minutes apart at that point, but they were not painful. Like, I was singing and everything, so I was totally comfortable and everything. So they come in, I think, closer to midnight, maybe 11:30, and I don't know the exact times. This is, it's kind of a blur, some of it. And they broke my water, and it honestly went from like being able to sing through the contractions to like I could not focus on anything else but the pain within like 10 to 15 minutes, which I had been told if you are induced, it's very painful. And I don't know that it's so much very painful, but you don't have time to adjust. Like, a lot of labor naturally, it slowly progresses to the point where it's painful. And this was like out of nowhere. So my husband's like trying to distract me with like questions. I think he was like playing a song and asking me to like name the song that it was, and I could not focus, but it was still like a good distraction at the same time. I think the Pitocin caused me to shake. Like, I was shaking so badly. I wasn't scared or anything, but I was shaking like I had was freezing cold, except I was not cold. And so I went on for about an hour and a half from the point of my water breaking to asking for an epidural. Now, I cried because I got the epidural, and I knew that if I was being induced, there was a good chance. I've been told it's more painful. I obviously have nothing to compare it to, and I was kind of scared because my platelet levels were, my doctor had said, oh, your platelet levels stabilized, you're gonna be good, because they had stayed over 100,000, and you're supposed to be above 150, and some hospitals above 100,000 won't give you an epidural because of the risk of becoming paralyzed. And my hospital that I went to was 80,000. I was at 90,000. So I was kind of scared to get the epidural. I think my doctor was a little offended. I asked, like, how come some hospitals are 100,000 and how come some are 80,000? Like basically make me comfortable wanting to get an epidural, because right now I'm scared of being paralyzed, but I also am in pain. So she basically just said, you know, they do a lot of research and this is a healthy population here or something. It was kind of like that, and I'm like, you know what, whatever. She seems pretty confident that an epidural will be fine. So yeah, and I had asked that well in advance in case I got the epidurals. I asked for the epidural at an hour and a half of active labor, which I feel like, oh my god, what a sucker, like only an hour and a half of labor and I'm already asking for it. But they were very close together, very painful. I was shaking, I couldn't focus, and I kept being like, I need to get sleep. So my point of getting the epidural was to get sleep, but there was no time to get sleep for me because I had quite a quick labor. Now, some people are like insanely quick where it's an hour and a half total for everything. Mine was not that quick, but I believe the average is around 10 to 12 hours for first-time moms, and I was less than half that. So anyways, I am asking for the epidural, and they had checked me, and I think I was 6 centimeters, and they said, oh wow, you got to 6 centimeters already, like in an hour and a half after breaking my water. I was 6 centimeters. I didn't know any other details. And then the doctors, sorry, the anesthesiologist comes in, and they're like, oh my gosh, you're bleeding so much, which freaked me out. I thought I was like possibly hemorrhaging and didn't notice or something like that. And they were like, no, it just means that you're progressing very quickly. We have to check you. You might not be allowed to get the epidural. And I was like, what? And then they check, I'm still 6 centimeters, so everything is good with that. And I don't know why I didn't think about the fact that maybe this is gonna go fast and I don't need to get the epidural anymore because they're saying it's going fast, but I still got it because at that point I had made the decision, and it's very difficult when you're in pain to like actually think through the process of what you're doing, sort of thing. So they give me the epidural, and the doctor was in the room like maybe 10 minutes after I requested it, and maybe like 20 minutes after that, so about a half an hour, the epidural was in. I didn't find it painful to have the epidural, although like it was weird, and I've had experiences before. I had stitches in my finger when I was younger, and they did not numb me properly, and I felt it. And so they numb you before they give you the epidural because the epidural needle hurts. Apparently, I mean, I don't know, they numbed me, and I was like, wait, I need to make sure that I'm numbed. Like, the point is to eliminate pain here. Well, actually, not to eliminate, we'll get to that in a second. So he gives me the epidural, and I'm like, how long is this gonna take to be effect? Like, why did I get this? Because, you know, it's a narcotic. It was fentanyl that I specifically was given. I don't know if they give other stuff at different hospitals. And how long is it gonna take to get into effect? And it was, I guess maybe like 15 minutes, maybe half an hour. It kind of like slowly took effect, and I could feel my legs getting sort of numb. And then they checked me basically as soon as the epidural went in, and I was 7 centimeters, and they said that was the cutoff point. So basically, had I waited, I wouldn't have gotten the epidural at all. So I don't know, but that's just the way it is. When the epidural came into effect, I also got very itchy at first. Initially, it did go away, but it did stop the shaking, which is probably the most annoying thing to me. As well, I did not ever up the dose of the epidural. They told my husband to up the dose at the very end, and I'll get to that. But I wanted to like still experience it, and I just wanted to like kind of take the edge off the pain, basically. So I never didn't feel a contraction. And actually my one side was like way less numb than the other. And I do recall talking to the nurse, and I'm like, am I supposed to be feeling contractions in like my pelvic area? Because I never really felt strong contractions in my stomach. I basically like skipped that part, and he just like dropped, and I was feeling, she's like, oh, his head's in the canal, his head's gone down or whatever. So then I don't remember the timeline of how long after the epidural it was until I was pushing, but it was pretty quick. She comes back in again. Oh, you're bleeding a lot again. Checks me. Oh, you're fully done. Your baby's like +2 or something like that. You're 100% effaced, 10 centimeters dilated, and I'm like, okay. And then she said, let me know when you have the urge to push. So I guess the thing is with first-time moms, and maybe this is why first-time moms tend to push a lot longer than experienced moms. Yeah, they tell you the urge to push, but you don't really know what they mean. So at about 3 o'clock in the morning, I am starting to push. I thought she was like coaching me at first. I didn't realize I was like actually supposed to be pushing at first. I thought we were practicing. So it's just the nurse. There was just one nurse in the room with us. There was never like too many people in the room with us, which is really good. We're just pushing, and then my husband's, I called it front row center. He got the view down there. He looked. And for some reason, I didn't care. I guess you're like half drugged up. You're like in pain. It's just you're already like spread eagle, so whatever, right? And they were like, oh, we can see he has hair, you can see his head. And I guess like they wait for to bring the doctor in until you're crowning. So I'm pushing, and it's quite uncomfortable, but it's not that bad. So they bring the doctor in, and I'm doing like real pushes now, like really, like I'm getting sick of pushing, get this baby out type of pushes. And they kept upping the Pitocin, I think, to like get that urge to push better, because I thought I had the urge to push, and I had like, I guess, a subtle urge to push. What they should actually tell you is what they mean is literally where you cannot prevent your body from pushing, because that's what ended up happening at the end. And I'd start the push and my body would just be like, we are going for this. And my husband recorded the delivery, which I'm not posting on Facebook, but the very final push, I pushed 6 times in one contraction, or maybe it was multiple, but I pushed 6 times in a row. I was like, get this baby out. And I do have to say that was the most painful experience in my life. So even with an epidural, it was, the head coming out, not comfortable. And then I thought, oh, the head's out, we're good, this isn't gonna hurt anymore. But the shoulders kind of hurt too. So there's that. The placenta did not bother me at all. So the baby was born. He was presented to me. He was put directly onto my chest, like right at birth. They did not cut the cord right away. My husband, so they didn't clamp it right away. They waited like a minute or 2 or so, and then they did clamp it. My husband cut the cord, and the baby was chilling on me. And I'm like, we gotta get breastfeeding, because I read, get the baby breastfeeding as soon as possible. It'll help make breastfeeding go better, throughout it. You're more likely to be successful with it. So he latched on me. I assumed everything was good in that area, and I'm just chatting with the doctor like, oh, did I tear? She's like, yes. I guess I'm like, it hurts, so I'm not really surprised, but I was really, like everyone else, hoping I didn't. So I had a 2nd-degree tear. I don't know how many stitches I got. I'm gonna say between 6 and 9 stitches. Now, I felt the stitches because, like I said, I didn't have the epidural very strong, and I kept being like, are you gonna numb it down there? And the doctor's like, you have an epidural. And I was like, yeah, but like, you're not gonna put like topical numbing cream? So I don't feel like, because that's what I've been told happens. And so she's basically, after like 4 stitches, she says to my husband, go press the epidural button. So it did get better for like the last few stitches. But yeah, and then I had my baby. So all in all, at least what we considered active labor, it was about 5.5 hours from the time I was in active labor till the baby was on my chest. So that was pretty quick, and I kind of called it like a whirlwind. It was like I didn't have enough time to like freak out about stuff or to get upset or anything, because it was just like, it's gonna be soon, it's gonna be soon. However, I did push for almost an hour and a half, which I felt was kind of long considering the rest of the labor was pretty sure it was like 4 hours of, labor and then like an hour and a half of pushing. But alas, I do consider it to be a pretty positive experience, so I'm not upset about it. I would say, if anything, I kind of wonder if they could have just broken my water instead of giving me Pitocin, because that seems to be what really jump started everything and made it like zoom through. But because I was basically almost in labor already, being induced was not a bad experience for me, and I pretty much only heard bad experiences, so I was quite in shock. As well, just as a little side note, they also told me for my next baby, you know, if I do go into labor naturally, I'm told not to wait the hour to come in. So you're supposed to like have an hour of contractions that are 5 minutes apart, that are 1 minute long. And they were like, don't do that because you might end up having like a taxi baby. Because apparently if you have quick labors, you tend to continue to have quick labors. So that's that, and I have my baby, and recovery was pretty good too, but I will do that as a separate video later on. And if you like this video, give it a big thumbs up, and remember, no matter what your financial situation is, have a great day. Bye.